and 3 acres of ground. So I think we're definitely gonna update this, make sure it's spelled out clearly for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, because that did cause a problem there on,
Yeah, I'm actually going there tomorrow, by the way.
Okay.
I gotta go out there with code enforcement and, the engineer, and I'm gonna look at the Yost Road property.
you looked at Mike.
So we should have a update,
I heard they moved. They're
They
gone.
did. They did, but I wanted to go out there, so,
We're doing a compliance inspection tomorrow.
yeah, so how it all started was the one neighbor, and then it kinda drug out because the young lady had gotten sick. And then I just took all hands off of them. I told them, you gotta clean up, but I didn't wanna put no pressure on them because she was in pretty bad shape there. So now she's recovered, they're in Potter County, but the neighbor just wanted to make sure some things were done before they stick a for sale sign in the ground. And then a new guy comes in, he still has the same problem of water runoff, and I wanted to address it. And the guy was nice enough, he was like, yeah, go ahead, I had him give us permission, so he was nice enough to do it, but, so yeah, that will be taking care of that too tomorrow. At 10 a.m. Okay, and then this other stuff here, and I thought we said we had talked about, or do we do this with the PC? Am I?
No, we talked about this at the last meeting, like the bed and breakfast stuff and things like that. We had talked about this at our last meeting.
Yeah.
We talked about family care. This is where, Mr. Crawford, you mentioned,
I have one comment on F5,
Okay.
that's hours of operation.
Yeah, this was something we talked about.
I think we gotta have some way of putting something in there for exceptional circumstances or something.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, we
Yeah,
we do have the plant here, we do have hospital workers like my wife, stuff like that. Now, if she would need daycare or childcare, she's dropping them off at 6 o'clock in the morning, not picking them up till 7:30 at night. That wouldn't be possible here, so it limits where you can get daycare at. And you're not talking 20 people all doing this.
Yeah.
There should be some type of exception to put in there.
I remember you raising this point the last time we talked in the
Yeah,
workshop about this.
that's the only thing I had on that.
So what are you suggesting here, Bill? To open it up to
I don't,
earlier hours?
Aaron had a point with, we don't wanna really move the hours up, expand the hours out, because now you have everybody coming at those times.
Sure.
Whereas if we can just say, there's some,
Exception based on, job requirements.
something like that.
Just some sort of, qualifier
yep,
to be able to work around those hours if need
so
be.
that people know that, if I need daycare, I know I ain't supposed to be here till 6:30, but maybe at work at 6. And they say, well, we can apply to township to get a week before your
Yeah.
exception.
Okay. Next.
We talked about the two businesses, the no impact and the minor last meeting.
Mhm.
So I wanted to carry those over. And then non-commercial antennas and satellite dishes.
Well,
Vicky, we had to discuss this at the last one, but we did have a discussion internally about this, and I did kind of rewrite this section and circulate that, and I believe that was
Just
more or
number
less.
5, no more than one satellite dish, shall be permitted.
Oh, I see.
No, this was the section that I completely rewrote and
Yeah.
gave you and Vicky
Yeah.
about a month and a half
Just,
ago. That-
So that's not, this isn't the new part that you wrote, this is the old
yeah,
part?
no,
This is the old part.
Oh,
This is the old part.
Okay,
I would suppose that we place in what I rewrote for this,
okay.
which I wrote, as I told you, as if, we were looking at this from a ham radio operator
mhm.
perspective, which relaxed a lot of these restrictions and got, I believe most of your issues addressed, Mr. Carafa.
Yeah, the only thing I was looking at written, 12-foot dishes, I don't think we should have them in the township anymore, but hey, it ain't up to me.
Well, they're
Well, I
probably
mean,
not
it's, but it's not.
staying, nobody's
They
probably
don't use
putting
them
them
anymore.
in.
The
Right.
C-band, you don't use anymore. But there are some of the services that use 2 1-meter dishes.
Yeah.
Or 28-inch.
I don't believe in my rewrite I limited the number,
Okay, that's the only thing I have,
So we'll fix
is one dish.
but I can make sure we review that,
Yeah. Because I know if you're doing internet and TV, one dish points here,
And
one
then,
dish
and
points
I
there.
think you had, the other issue was, roof versus ground placement, I did
Yeah.
address that as well. To make that much easier, for the resident to, make sure it works for them. And then we did talk about the ground mounted solar stuff in the prior meeting as well. I didn't know if you had any additional comments there, Mr. Crawford, or Mr. Lehman.
No.
I didn't actually write this next one down,
So
but,
that takes us kind of to this wireless communications facilities and small wireless facilities.
oh wait, stop, before,
Okay,
go to mobile home parks.
Where are you at?
Where you at? Did I jump
I'm on the
ahead?
same page as Aaron, I'm just below solar energy.
You jumped ahead of
Oh,
us.
Yeah, I jumped ahead of you.
Yeah, okay, back to solar.
No, I'm.
We're wireless.
We're down below, we're at L.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
Let us catch up to you though, hold on.
Nothing.
all right, that points to basically a separate section of, the zoning ordinance.
Right,
And that takes us to A, which is dwelling, single-family attached townhouse. These are some of these definitions that
mhm.
are basically updated definitions. And we hadn't discussed this previous, I didn't know if you had any comments here. These were taken from the county.
No, I haven't done that, all right. The next page, all right.
No, I just put, I wanted to review these definitions, that's all that was.
So that does take us to the mobile park.
Okay,
These definitions, this went through the PC?
Yeah,
Yes,
You guys already went over all these definitions?
yes.
Yeah, we did.
So mobile home park, this is pointing to a section of the saldo, which is something we're gonna review in the next month or two.
okay.
That's where
Yeah,
our
yeah, the only thing I was
fees-
the only thing I was looking at is, do we need to allow for mobile home parks in the township?
So we're gonna get to that, that's gonna be next month's discussion. So next month is zoning, and we're gonna get into use cases being restricted and
So
allowed.
if we do it there, does it come back and take this out then?
Yes,
Okay,
because this points to that section.
okay, I'm good.
So if that is a use case that you're looking to, restrict, that would be something we can address it in the zoning section
Okay.
of this, because you're gonna see, the next section is I think, about 18 pages, I wanna say. The next section is probably about 80, but it's basically use cases we're allowing.
All right,
And there's not a lot changing there, but it is, what uses we're taking out and bringing in, or, removing and allowing, and then updating the language to those.
I just don't want to see 40 homes turned into 80 mobile homes.
Yep. All right, that takes us into the agricultural use regulations. This section, there was a lot of changes to this section. And this was to really give a lot more leeway to our agricultural-based residents to basically, get the buildings and infrastructure they need to make their operation run smoothly and, make sure that this isn't the hard point for them to try to get stuff. So, as an example here, in B2, we changed the height. This had been, I think, 25 feet, we took it to 60 feet, which allow for an average size silo. In addition to doing some of your larger barns on some of the larger properties. And this also, changed the square footage quite a bit. We unrestricted this quite a bit. It had originally been set almost as restrictive as residential, and we moved it up to 5,000 square feet, which is quite a large, footprint for a building. And then the way we kind of did this is this was an attempt at kind of a sliding scale for these. And Paul, I believe we talked about basically tying this to stormwater and lot size.
Right, 10 acres or something like that, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah,
Right.
To
I'm trying
basically
to
give-
gear it towards the AS.
give a
Right,
sliding
back to
scale
the
so that the bigger the piece of property is, the less restrictive it was.
Right.
Yeah. Now, this went through PC already,
yep.
Yes, sir.
and Bob was there?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yeah, I ain't problem with that.
This took months to do.
Huh?
This took months, not.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely,
I know.
yeah.
This was-
No, I'm just saying.
You can't say Bob was there every day, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, he had input on it, being as he is one of
So,
the
Yeah,
bigger farmers.
absolutely.
I'll take us, because basically, the next big change here is section E. And section E, which is gonna be on page 9, is agritourism.
Yes, say it again?
Agritourism. This was, we kind of had an overlay district here that overlaid into the industrial that allowed some of those kind of use cases. And this was bringing it back to basically some of these bigger properties to give them ability to do, again, additional revenue streams, for the farmers. So you pick Christmas tree farms, wineries, petting zoos, the stuff that you might see if you go to, one of these farms where, you go to corn maze and all that kind of stuff. It was to kind of allow that, and this has a minimum lot size of 10 acres. So again, we are restricting it to the larger property owners here that have these larger farms. But giving them a way that maybe wasn't previously allowed here in the township to, think about their business and, explore other, revenue opportunities.
Now, I don't know if it falls under this, or if it doesn't really matter. Say I wanted to, rent, 2,500 square feet of Bill's property to plant my garden, do my own share cropping garden. Is that allowed in the township, or is that fall under this?
Yeah, that would be allowed, that wouldn't be agritourism.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not this section, but
I
that
think it was
would be allowed.
Well, not to kind of incentivize like somebody buying 20 acres and having a way to offset it, not subdividing it and, you
So
know
I
what I mean?
I will say, like, one of the use cases that was discussed and was asked to me was someone looking at a piece of property here, and basically they wanted to buy a piece of property and put a nursery on it. Not necessarily live on it, but put a nursery on it, and that's kind of where this would be kind of aimed at,
Oh, okay.
So are we thinking that the educational and learning experiences, including tours, would include like hay rides and mazes and stuff like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, then what I think though we should do is add that in there, instead of just saying including tours, I think we say hay rides, like, just to make it clear that we think that falls under that, so that it's not a question.
Excluding paintball.
Yeah.
Excluding paintball.
Oh, no, it's airsoft now,
Oh, whatever.
you're old, you're old.
Just because I don't want it to fall into the last one, which is anything not listed, then you gotta go to the zoning hearing board. So if there's anything else that the two of you or anybody else can think of that might fall as a popular thing at, a farm like this, let's make sure we,
So if you wanted to put
Call it
airsoft,
out.
this would be the place to put it, if you wanted to add that,
right. Mhm.
No, we don't need that.
I mean, I think that seems to be some of the
We
most
do that now
popular.
in our neighborhood, we don't need a rule for it.
But there are places that do on farms that do have, will build up mock cities and
Right.
you can do tournaments at and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we have a couple around in the township.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
So the next is game farm, fish hatchery or similar use.
That's what.
So this was similarly along those, same kind of, thought process here. This was, someone wants to make a stock pond or something like that, you come, let, people fish for a day and, charge a little bit, they would be able to do, things like that.
Because F is being more allowable.
Correct.
Restricted.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, looking for
Be a
another.
little more specific.
Can't start on Monday.
I'm good with that, Aaron.
Non-residential use regs.
So the non-residential use regulations, this basically is gonna start defining some of the use cases that would be in these commercial areas. So like the animal care, these setbacks are different than other use cases. And that was to combat, noisy neighbors, noise ordinances, smells, things like that. You know, it set, you know, boarding standards, things like that. These were discussed at the PC.
Yeah, everything that's in front of you was.
Anything that's already here that doesn't meet this would be then non-conforming.
Correct.
Correct,
Right, because according to this, we couldn't have the SPCA.
correct.
Yeah, unless.
But those would become, you know, existing non-conforming
Okay.
uses. There's no language in here that would, you know, go after, you know, existing property owners.
Yeah, we're not kicking the SBC out.
And what is B?
Artisanal production.
I just want to hear him say it.
Huh.
Artisanal production, you actually mentioned this at our last meeting where we did use, because we were talking about, you know, what if I, you know, I'm a sculpture artist, or, you know, I make candles, or, you know, hot sauces, or whatever it may be. This basically, you know, created those kind of standards, and, you know, some of the thought process here is this would be a great use in some of our industrial area, where you can set up some smaller manufacturing. You know, and it puts a little bit of restriction on here, but it gives you, again, another use case that we didn't have in the past.
But what about, uses that were taken away by zoning changes?
So we'll get into that next month.
Right.
Would you quit getting ahead of us?
I'm just,
Stay on this page.
So on number 2 here, no animal shelter or run shall be permitted within 100 feet of any property line or within 200 feet of any dwelling located on an adjacent property. So if you had 2 acres, that's a fairly large setback. So right now I have animal shelter on my place, I got 20 acres and it's within
This is
probably
commercial.
70 feet. Oh, okay.
This is commercial
yeah,
based.
it's not, you're not an animal care facility.
We kicked
Farm.
over, oh, you know what, and I noted it when I talked to you, so I
You're a
said,
farm.
my bad, sorry.
You know, you would come under a different part of the ordinance.
I don't think
Yes.
I'm in trouble already. Okay. Well, then I don't mind.
Nothing's good here.
But the artisanal production and retail manufacturing, that'd be a new use case, and that's basically small scale. You know, in the PC basically limited this to 5,000 square feet.
Okay, okay, but this is in effect existing stuff, so,
This does
No.
not affect, this adds, this is
No.
additive.
okay. Because we have a sawmill, how can you have a sawmill and not expect to have noise?
Yeah, no, this is additive, this is, you know.
Well, and it's
additional use
detectable
case.
on a neighboring property. It's not that it can't be noise, it's just that I can't hear it if I live next door to it.
Because the goal for this was, you know, not, we
Yeah.
still allow full-scale commercial
Right,
and
not a huge
industrial
impact.
uses. But this was, you know, in additional, if you wanted to do small scale, you could as well. Because we didn't necessarily draw that out. For number C, automotive services. So the main change here on this one is we used to have a major and a minor auto repair category, and we've combined those into a single automotive, you know, service kind of definition here.
So here's a question for you. If you're in violation now, you'd still be in violation.
Correct.
When this goes in effect.
Correct.
You become non-conforming.
Right,
Correct.
if it's an
Got it.
illegal use, it
Alright.
doesn't become
Okay,
non-conforming.
I just want to be sure.
Correct.
This was a,
And again, this is gonna be in the commercial area.
correct. This is a tiny bit more restrictive on the major automotive side, but not very much at all. For most of your shops, this would be no issue whatsoever, but if you were like a full-blown body shop, there were a couple changes here that might affect you. The other addition here, we didn't previously allow for the sale of automobiles for mechanics, but we're allowing up to 3. And the PC's thought process here, well, if you have mechanics lien, how do you sell that car?
Right.
You know, and it was to basically allow for a small, you know, ability to sell maybe mechanics lien, or if you got a pet project where you buy a car and you're restoring it, you know, to sell for profit at the business, you'd have that opportunity.
And that, didn't I read where we took out, you can't have a gas station?
That'd be, again, in the zoning section.
Oh, that's covering this?
No, this is
Okay.
more definitions, this is kind of
Okay.
the definitions going into
I
this.
got you.
I put some of the definitions for the zoning stuff, so that we keep some of that out of the way. Because we spent a lot of time at last month's meeting talking about definitions.
Okay.
So I knew we had a shorter section of the use regulations here for the residential and, you know, agriculture, and so I wanted to put a little bit of the, you know, things in here. So next up, we had bank or financial institutions, that was pretty straightforward. Contractors, storage, and offices, again, that pretty much matched, you know, just updated language to what we currently have. Daycare facilities, you know, is basically just an updated, you know, version from the county. This has a little bit more, you know, protection oriented.
And there is, we do have a distinguish between daycare and babysit.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this again is the commercial side, so this is full on, you know, kinder care or something of a, you know, like situation here. This is a commercial operator. This is not, you know, the smaller, you know, smaller scale, you know, family, you know, kind of overrun.
7 or more children.
One of the big things we did talk about it, you can go ahead, Mr. Crawford, please.
Yeah, it's not right. Okay. I was just gonna be commercial area. All right, it wouldn't look like it. I'm just saying we have pipelines that run right through the township. You could knock out a lot of places.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger contention areas, if I'm remembering correctly, were the number of parking spaces in the PC. We did talk about that for quite some time, you'll see that as number 7 here. But I just wanted to raise that for you, because that was something we did discuss at decent length in the PC.
Yeah, and that was out in Limerick, they have one, and that was a big problem. My kids went there.
That was one of the issues.
No, perhaps it was the same thing.
It was backing on the highways, everything. so
That was one of the
good
things we were
catch.
trying to adjust here, because we do call for more parking spaces than normal for the daycare, and it was to kind of address that issue, especially since we don't have, you know, the amount of traffic controls and, you know, other measures that, you know, if it starts backing up on the road, it's gonna cause a major issue. All right, next we have emergency services. It's very straightforward. Same thing with the next couple.
Yeah.
And here's where you get into full-scale manufacturing for J. You know. This basically matches up, you know, our existing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of this is just basically updating our language and referencing our existing code to bring it up to basically modern standard.
Okay.
Because again,